Well, now the crackdown in Peterborough on the growing number of migrants who are sleeping rough.
During the boom years, Peterborough attracted thousands of EU migrants, but the recession has hit job opportunities and many are now out of work and homeless. So far, 28 squatters have been sent home because they have failed to support themselves financially.
They left Eastern Europe in search of a better life, expecting jobs and homes. Instead, they've ended up here, sleeping rough in makeshift ghettos. Despite these conditions, for some, there's no alternative. A short walk from the city centre, hidden from view. More camps like these are cropping up. Can I come in, please? Hello? No. It's okay. They didn't want to talk to me. They didn't want us to film. Conditions in there were pretty awful. Now, people I've spoken to have told me they came here to work. They haven't got work for whatever reason, but they don't want to go home. So despite those conditions that I've just seen, they don't want to go home. Some have even moved into people's gardens.
This is a shed. Yeah, duck your head. Yep. Right, well, he had a mattress set up here, candles and stuff, as you can see in the corner there. Yeah. Couple of porno mags behind me.
The authorities told him it was a civil matter, so he resorted to clearing the shed himself. He got as far as a duvet.
I suppose the irony of the fact that I hadn't seen anybody since I first reported this from the council 4 months ago, and they were here within 20 minutes of me starting a little bonfire. You know, the irony struck me, so I did argue with the chap.
On the River Nene, there's also concern about the effects on local wildlife.
They are definitely eating the ducks and the swans, there's no doubt about it. Several people have informed me that they've seen swans hanging up in different places in Peterborough. The ducks are disappearing quite alarmingly.
It's to do with a clash of cultures, really. You know, they're used to being able to take fish for the table, and they now think they can do the same here.
Since countries like Poland joined the EU in 2004, Peterborough's seen a huge influx of Eastern European immigrants. Of the 16,000 who have settled in the city, most have found a better life. For a small minority, though, the struggles are the same, but in a different country. The City Council wasn't keen to talk about ongoing operations. So far, 28 people have been repatriated. More rough sleepers have been issued with ultimatums. Unless they can prove they're looking for work, more evictions could follow. Joseph Hall, BBC Look East, Peterborough.
So that's the situation in Peterborough, but what about the wider issue of immigration? All the parties believe it's an important part of their election manifesto.
So let's see what the main parties plan to do. Labour want to introduce a new migration impact fund raised from extra taxes on new migrants to support local services like health, the police and schools. The Conservatives want an annual limit on non-EU immigration. And the Liberal Democrats would like to introduce a regional points-based system to ensure that immigration is targeted on underpopulated areas. So tonight's big question is, how do we deal with immigration?
Immigration has, quite literally, changed the face of the region. In the last 5 years, the East has seen the country's biggest rise in new foreign workers, around 140,000 people, mainly from Eastern and Baltic Europe. Most politicians at this election will be trying to tread a fine line on this issue. On one side, they'll be trying to balance the benefits of immigration to things such as business and the wider economy. And on the other, the views of those who are more sceptical.
It's time to stop people coming in.
Get them out.
They're taking all our jobs.
There's too many coming in that we don't need.
As long as they come in and they want to work and pay towards the cost of everything, that's fine.
Polish farm labourer Detriński z Wawomia is typical of the tens of thousands of East Europeans who've come to work here. But would the new policies of the three main parties, if applied to European Union workers, make a difference to numbers? By and large, no. The Australian-style point system favoured by all three and the Conservatives' immigration cap only apply to non-EU immigrants.
I don't really see a great deal of difference in substantive policy between the three main parties. I think where we do see more differences is in the way they describe those policies and in the way they talk about immigration.
But on non-EU immigration, there are slight differences between the three main parties. Dr Ajit De Silva from Sri Lanka is an NHS psychiatrist in Norfolk. He's been allowed to work here because there's a relative shortage of psychiatric doctors with his skill set. Under Labour and the Lib Dems' points-based system, someone like Dr De Silva would still be allowed into the country to work. He would under the Conservative policy too. But once their immigration cap on numbers had been reached, workers like Dr De Silva could find the doors firmly closed.
The important point is that whichever government is our next government has a clear overall objective to get immigration down by about 75% from its present level. I wait to hear that from any party.
None of the main parties are likely to give any such undertaking, especially before the election. Such cuts require drastic policies, policies simply not found in the middle ground of British politics, which is where they all want to be. Clive Lewis, BBC Look East.
And of course we'll have another big question next week.
The entertainer Eddie Izzard swapped the stage today for the streets of East Anglia. The multi-talented performer was here to support Labour candidates in the election.
He's been in Lowestoft, Norwich and Cambridge. He's also admitted to Look East that he intends to run for political office himself within the next 10 years. And Jana Gadgil reports.
Comedian, transvestite, marathon runner and wannabe politician. We caught up with Eddie Izzard on his whistle-stop tour of the East.
And I have been standing up for the Labour Party for a long time. I've been a member of the Labour Party since about 95. So, yeah, this is something I do.
In Lowestoft, he did the usual politician things, walking, talking to strangers, and he even got people dancing. A bit of celebrity endorsement goes a long way.
Maybe I am a celeb, but I'm not doing it because of that. I do believe passionately in this. I've sat up and I've been talking about Europe for ages now, and I'm just going out and putting my money where my mouth is. I ran around the country. I found that Britain is brilliant, and the Tories keep trying to slag off the country and saying it's broken. I think it's brilliant. The people are brilliant.
Next up, Norwich, to meet the Labour candidates there, and he's still in good humour.
I think that Gordon, you've got to give it to this. Is he a fantastic smiler? No, that's not his forte.
And he left it to established politicians to deal with difficult questions.
How do we give a good life and decent life to the elderly?
Politics is incredibly boring because it's about serious stuff, and it's about roads and the third crossing over the river and the Waveney River and things like this, and about wind farms and stuff and jobs.
Great local knowledge.
Yeah, well, it's important stuff.
43 marathons in 51 days last year showed he's not scared of a challenge, and he's got one more idea up his sleeve.
I will run for something, MP, MEP, Mayor of London, something like that in 10 years' time. So you don't need to set your watches, don't need to hold your breath. But I've said I will do this. I said 2 years ago that I'd do this. I said I'd run in 10 to 15 years, which is now 8 to 13 years' time. So about 10 years' time.
So today was day one of that 10-year plan. But how will a funny man deal with being disliked? And Jana Gadgil, BBC Look East, Norwich.
Back to our top story now, the cancellation of all flights at the region's airports because of the ash cloud thrown up by a volcano in Iceland. Gareth George is at Stansted. Gareth, just remind us, what are the travel prospects for tomorrow?
Well, we already know that all flights up until at least 7 a.m. are going to be cancelled, and we're going to find out at 8 o'clock tonight whether anything is going to take off after 7 a.m. We're standing close to the short-stay car park here at Stansted. And have a look at this. These vehicles, hundreds of them, were parked up early this morning by people who managed to fly out before all the flights were cancelled. Those passengers are now stranded, possibly somewhere in Europe. Their cars are still here, unclaimed, running up parking bills. And if you're watching Look East from the comfort of your cosy armchair, spare a thought for the people in the terminal preparing to bed down for the night.
Gareth, thank you very much.
Good. Let's get the weather. Here's Phil.
Thank you, Stuart. Well, apart from the excitement of volcanic ash, the weather's actually been quite well behaved today. We've seen quite a lot of sunshine. We're watching bands of cloud coming